There's a lot of people that are utterly bewildered over the fact that a man in Japan is renting himself in order to do nothing, and he is making money hand over fist in doing so. And they don't understand that in Japan, renting people to do stuff is actually quite common. So there's an anime called Rental Girlfriend, and this is due to the fact that it's an entire industry there where you can do just that. You can rent a girlfriend. And what it means is, well, you can set up a schedule like going to the movies, going to have some coffee or whatever. And there's nothing sexual, there's no kissing, there's no touching, but you get to go out on a date with a woman that you pay for, because there's a lot of people that want the companionship and they don't want the intimacy. They don't want anything pornographic. They just want to go in a park and spend some time with a girl. And it does seem sad, to be honest, if you're thinking about it this way. But there's a demand. There's a lot of lonely guys out there that don't know how to talk to a girl, don't know how to engage with a girl, and they think that maybe this is a way they might actually learn. And believe it or not, there's a lot of rental girlfriends organizations that are happening in the West. If you Google them up, you might find them. But there's also different organizations in Japan that I don't think will appear in the West. And that is to rent a family, for example. So you can rent your own father, you can rent a daughter, or you can rent a guy that does nothing. And the reason that I think this won't happen in the West is that to understand why people would want to rent that is to understand Japanese culture. Japanese people are very collectivist oriented. It's the good of the greater whole. So every action that you do reflects on your family. It's not just you. It's not if you mess up, it doesn't just reflect on you, it reflects on your family back home. So because of that, appearances are very important. People are overly polite because, again, if they're rude, it affects their family back home. But on top of that, they want to appear that they're normal. So what does that mean? Well, it means that, for example, it's not good appearance, it's not normal to go to the movies alone. So in order not to go to the cinema alone, you can hire this guy, which is a guy that does nothing, and he sits next to you, and now it looks from the outside like you're having a friend. It sounds very bizarre for us Westerners that someone would go to this length. But this is how it's like in Japan. And then you also have the idea, like, why would you rent a family? Why would you rent a father or something like that? Well, say you have to attend an event like a funeral, and you want your parents to be there. Well, maybe your parents disinherited you. That is something that happens in Japan. If your parents aren't satisfied with their child, they can disinherit them. And that is of great shame towards that individual. It's, again, having to do with that culture where everything you do reflects on your family. And your family just wants nothing to do with you anymore because you keep reflecting negative upon them. So they disinherit you. And if that happens, other members of society look down on you. So now what you can do is you can hire a family, someone pretending to be your father, someone pretending to be your mother, and they can go to that funeral event with you. And then you can take pictures, you can take snapshots, and it seems as if your family is still functional. So that you can impress that ushikushi lady that you like. And in the case of this guy, well, apparently you can just hire him to do nothing. And this is what people use him for. Apparently there was this lady, a 30-year-old woman, who went to a coffee shop with him. Apparently she's one of the regular customers, and they didn't talk or anything. She just wants to be at the coffee shop and not be judged or hit on by other men. So she got this guy, and he just stands there doing nothing. But she looks like she is with someone from the outside. And then you have people that are hiring him to go to the cinema. There's people that are hiring him to just stand in the park. So it's a very lucrative business. I guess the reason it's a little bit more bizarre is because usually these people that are hired, they're paid actors and they do work. So for example, they pretend to be your mother, or they pretend to be your father, or they pretend to be your girlfriend. This guy doesn't do any work. No acting skills whatsoever. He doesn't even need to initiate conversation. He does nothing. So probably he's a lot cheaper, but also because he's the only one that does nothing, he's got over 3,000 appointments. And by the way, it reminds me of another story why someone hired a family. It doesn't always have to do with appearances. So there was this Japanese man who lost his wife and his daughter in a car crash. And he didn't want to get married again. And after several years, he was still living on with the pain. So he went to one of these agencies and he hired a wife and a daughter. So obviously these were two women that were actresses, and the daughter was over 18, so it's not like that. But they had to go to his house and pretend that they're his family. Again, nothing sexual, no kissing, no touching. It's just like do family things. So he gave them the key to the house. The wife was supposed to clean and cook, and then they would watch TV together. And when you listen to that, it's so sad, it's messed up. But I mean, if someone wants to pay for that service, and the guy himself said that after several years, this actually helped him pass the loneliness. It managed to stop the role play, and it actually started talking with those ladies. And, everything is business. Like they weren't involved more than that, but they terminated the contract, and that was it. But it's interesting to understand the mental perspective of a culture that is incredibly different than what we have here in the West. Here in the West, yeah, people do care about their appearances, but they don't go to these great lengths in order to pay for someone just to sit with them at a movie. I went to the movies alone many times. I even went to restaurants alone many times. I don't care. I mean, you go to the movies because you want to see the movie. And it looks a lot better on the big screen than it looks at home. So that's why I went. But there are certain people that are a little bit more uncomfortable with going alone, which is understandable. But like, if they really want to see the movie, they would probably go. In Japan, things are different. Like in Japan, people are even more reluctant. It's like dialed up to 11. So there's a lot of people who just watch anime and they think that's how cool Japan is like. And the answer is like, yeah, Japan is cool from many points of view, but then there are other aspects of it which you may not enjoy, you may not like. And this idea of constantly having to be careful about not offending people and constantly having to keep up appearances is something that I personally don't think I would manage to do. Of course, if you're born there and you're used to this type of culture, then okay, fine. But like to come from an individualistic mindset where, look, what I'm doing only reflects on me, and to go to a collectivist mindset, like what you're doing reflects on your family. And take into account that it goes both ways, like what your children do reflects on you. Like you can be a perfectly good citizen and all of a sudden everyone distances themselves from you because your kid did something bad. Just try to get into that mindset so you can see how toxic it is. Or, maybe it's not toxic because it does create a more safe and a more polite society. So it's a trade-off, I guess. But it also leads to a lot of suicides, as if I'm not mistaken, Japan is quite high compared to the rest of the world in that department. And it's this like very difficult way of being that many people can't put up with it. But hey, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.